So I'm just
That was like your thing.
But ours was like we'd have a like guest come on for like a 45-second to a minute long interview. So that's where our show was. Our show was 30 stories in 30 minutes. So we'd have 30 news stories from like a.
When you can put this puppy.
Yeah, like right in there.
Yeah, just drill it right into your mouth.
Did you ever do like the ASMR thing where into the microphone, into the microphone? That shit's fucking wild.
It's so weird. Like people say some weird stuff, dude.
They like the pet the microphone. Like how do they come up with that shit? So,
I don't know. There's an avenue for everything out there.
There's some weird people in this world.
Yeah, I mean
totally respect it.
There's an avenue for everything. I mean, you could sell anything to anybody. People have weird.
Yeah, it's really nuts.
Likes, dislikes.
You could sell whispers.
You could sell whispers. People just started on the web. Turning up a mic super loud and talking into it, and all of a sudden it became a thing.
It's so
all
crazy.
over the place, and you can do like different sounds and stuff.
That's so nuts.
But you were saying you'd interview people for. You said a minute and a half.
Yeah, so like it had to be super structured. That's what I was saying. Like, you had to go into it and be like, okay, you can ask 2 questions and you have about 10 seconds of an answer. Like, because you get like some banter in between. And you're like, okay, please stop like joking around.
Yeah,
like we're basically just going for like informational. Like a lot of the ones I did with like fashion. Like I was like our fashion expert. Me out of all people.
Hell yeah.
Like I became like known as the fashion guy on our
You
show.
have like a Hollywood fashion.
Well, I think it was just like out of just necessity and survival.
Necessity that you're like yeah, I can do fashion.
Yeah, like that was like how I started to become a producer. It was like, who's gonna be the fashion producer? And then like my boss kind of jokingly was like, do you want to do it? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Do I know anything about it? No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Isn't that such like
So I literally learned a bunch of stuff about fashion, like what was in and what was out, and like.
Yeah, I mean that's such like a baseball thing, though.
Yeah.
When your coach is like, "Can you do this?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever played here? Yeah.
Right.
Like my junior year, Rich asked me, he's like, "You ever played third base?" I was like, "Yeah."
Right.
He's like, "All right, I want you to start taking reps." He's like, "Cause I was coming back from TJ."
Right.
He's like, "You might need to play third base next year." I was like, "Yeah, okay. I've played there before." No. It's the last place I want to play, 1, and 2, I've never played there before.
It's like terrifying.
But you just do it because it's an opportunity.
Yeah. It's like, I think I'd done that too. Like when like I was in college, you're like, oh, have you ever like thrown like sidearm, like a submarine? I'm like, sure. Like it's a joke.
Yeah, I used to.
It's like literally the points. Like I had that same experience but I think when it translated into like real world like producing, and like what my career was gonna be, it was like I had overcome the fear of not doing something before.
Yeah.
Again
and again.
Like I can do it. I literally fashion was the last thing that I thought I would be able to do, but I just had known, I had the confidence in myself to figure it out, because I had that experience and being able to figure something out before.
And that's something we'll touch on, is like how transferable so many of those skills from baseball, more the failures than the successes, honestly.
Right.
All right. So welcome back to this week's installment of the Real Successful Podcast. This week, we got a special guest. It's going to be a shorter intro than normal, but we'll talk about it after. He's a former Division I college baseball player for the University of Washington. He graduated in 2017 and began working at Fox as a production assistant. In less than a year, he was able to work his way up to producer, as we heard. He's an incredibly talented writer, and he's constantly taking his game to the next level. He's doing big things for, something that most 24-year-olds aren't doing at this point. And his journey to get here has been pretty awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, Henry Baker. Welcome to the show, man.
That is a good intro. It's short, but
dude, it's usually longer, and this is what I wanted to talk about.
It's a work in progress, It's like who knows what's going to.
Well, you're also very absent on the internet.
I am.
Do you know that about yourself?
I didn't really. It wasn't a conscious decision, but I don't know. There's something about like monetizing the self, I guess is the best way to put that. Like literally, like the idea of like basically manufacturing your life to monetize.
What do I want it to look like?
I think that's what subconsciously was like. I don't like I didn't have a drive to like put out stuff just for the gratification of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like I don't know what that was, but literally it was like literally 2 years ago, like this week was like my last Instagram post.
I know, because normally I do a ton of research on
Yeah.
people so I can write like a nice
Mm-hmm.
little introduction, hype them
Yeah,
up
I'm a
and everything.
ghost.
And I'm like, Jesus. I was like, Henry
I'm
doesn't have
literally a
anything.
ghost.
Well, or so most of the people I've had on, I've either like grown up with, known for a
Yeah.
while, or they're like a public figure enough to where I can get a ton of
Right.
info. And for you, we
Uh-huh.
always knew each other,
Right.
but it's not like we grew up together. So
Right.
I was like, damn. I was
Yeah.
like, I gotta get creative with that. I was like, I got your LinkedIn profile,
Right.
and
That's
I got
that's a fun one.
and I got your Instagram, which the last post is from 2003
What, like 16?
16. Yeah.
17?
years ago.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah,
Probably-
so you're
I should
saying-
probably change that up, right? Yeah,
No, you
probably-
don't have
but
to.
you know,
But like,
that's-
I wish. I mean, I do a lot of social media stuff just because
Yeah.
of the podcast. And
Right,
everything.
right,
You
100%.
kind of have to.
yeah, that's
which-
because you have a
it's the
goal in mind
business.
and like a mission, and like it's an amazing one that's like trying to, bring light to these stories of these people that often aren't heard from.
well,
These
yeah, and
stories that
it's-
are people can take from and learn from.
yeah, and
apply it
it's
to their own life.
where I mean, it's 5 or 6 posts a week, and that's like
Yeah.
literally the last thing I want to do.
Right.
Like, I enjoy creating content, but I don't want to have to be like on social media all the time.
Right.
But like for
Yeah, it's
you,
taking-
you don't have to be.
Right. And that was really what it was. It was like I saw it as like it's taking me out of like being in the real world in a way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and I know it's not like I know everyone has their own purpose behind it, but I just saw it like when I see people on their phones like, hey, let's take a picture, and like they pose up like they act like it's so much cooler than it is. I'm like, okay, like I see why, but I just personally it's not me, but I get it.
Does that help with writing, with creativity? Like, do you feel like you're more like present?
Yeah, that's really what it was. I just wanted to be like more present in like actual human interaction, like real world stuff. And it's like it wasn't really a conscious thing, but I think that's definitely helped me a
It was
lot
just
because
kinda
I've done
like
a lot. I do a
what
lot
had to
more. Like I
happen.
read a lot more books.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally just wanting to learn way more in a more deep, like purposeful way, and because I'm just more present in, real world interactions, real world like themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you read? What do you mostly read?
A lot of stuff. I mean, it's mainly. I may have like a whole stack over here, but I have like just a bunch of shit behind me. But it's a lot of like
Are these all yours?
a lot.
Mostly?
The majority is like my dad, and then my stuff's mainly over there and over here. But a lot of like, just like biographies. A lot mainly right now it's because I'm doing a lot of screenwriting. It's a lot of like story theory books.
Okay.
Because story is life. It's
Yeah.
literally that's why we love stories so much, and that's ultimately why I went into it, which we can go into.
Yeah.
And that's how I got drawn into entertainment, was realizing that stories are so important to how we live our own lives, whether we know it or not. It's like watching a movie like Field of Dreams, let's say.
Yeah.
Like do you like as a baseball person, what do you think that movie's about?
What do I think it's about?
What's it about?
I mean, it's a lot more about his relationship with his father than it is about baseball. But I'm also a
Right.
story guy, so
Right.
I could see
exactly.
Yeah.
But like as a kid,
As a kid, it's a baseball movie.
it's baseball movies. Like, oh, I love this
Yeah.
baseball
It's
movie.
literally the last thing it's about.
It's literally the last thing it's about, but it made me appreciate the relationships I have.
Mhm.
And that's what that movie really is. It's like, you're not going to realize what you had until it's gone, and you're going to regret things
Yeah.
if
You're
you
gonna
don't
wish you could just
appreciate
play
what you
catch
have
with
in the
your dad
moment.
one more time.
One more time.
Yeah.
And that's like, it was really like movies like that were like, okay, this is what I want to do. And
That's
it's like the blend of sports and life,
Yeah. It's like the baseball was just the vehicle to
Mhm.
deliver that message.
Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's rewind the clock a little bit. You grew up here. We were talking a little bit
Yep.
earlier. You've grown up in this house, been here your whole
All
life.
life. Yeah.
How was it? How was it growing up out here? Because you're kind of secluded a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely. It's actually funny. I was literally just thinking about, because like this is just kind of off the beaten path of Agora, and it's like close enough for everything to not be completely in the boondocks, but for people in Agoura, they consider it the boondocks.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of influenced my perspective on things, because like it's like an old town feel, like it's horse
like
area,
old ranch land,
and like a lot of our neighbors are just super classic, like Western type characters, like they're just like all cowboy type characters.
Yeah.
And like that kind of motivated me earlier, like me and my sister, like we would just go around and like play like cowboys and Indians, and like be like with, like we would have the mountains in the back and like go run around.
Backyard, essentially.
Yeah, like we would just really just appreciate where we were. And like my dad always would, remind us like, how lucky we are to be like in such a beautiful place all the time. And that kind of from an early age, like that ingrained, like we're so fortunate to be in the position we are.
Yeah.
And like where we are. So it's just like this whole, it's always just given me perspective, like being out here. Of like, I'm just so fortunate. I want to do the most with what I have.
Yeah.
And like really give back in a way that's like you're bettering the world around you. Yeah, exactly.
You have one sister older?
Yeah.
How's that?
It's great. She's amazing. She's like just been like my greatest mentor, I think, in everything, and just how to be like a good person, really.
Yeah.
Like she just put me in line early on. Like and
Same
it sounds kind of messed up. Like she was always just like made me, because she's my older sister, she was always like forced me into a position of like helping her.
Yeah.
And like I was always like the like supporting character in whatever play she was putting on, like
sure.
She was like, you got to respect like your elders in a way, and kind of establish that in my mind. And she lives in Santa Fe. She's a preschool teacher, and she's always just been kind of like that teaching, like that mentor teacher to me.
Yeah. I mean, I had 2 older sisters. Growing up is very much the same thing. It was like, look, when they would have like their friends over and everything, it's like you can like act normal or you cannot hang out with us.
Right.
Like either be normal, don't be that annoying like brother trying to make a scene and all that stuff, or like you can leave.
Yeah, 100%.
From like early on.
Right. And like when she got, I mean, like I was exposed to partying way earlier.
Or just talking to older people.
Right.
How big
like,
of a deal is that?
Like she would that was like a crazy, I remember like one of these parties that she had, like I was like 12 and she was like 14, I think, at the time.
Okay.
14, 15. So like they were just kind of getting into high school. Like they're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But I remember like my sister like really kind of being against me being there and a part of it. And like I basically begged her. I was like, please, like I just want to hang out and just like watch, and like learn what the hell is happening in this world right now, like with these people.
I'm just curious. What's going on?
Curious. And she was like, okay, like you can, but you just be chill, I guess. Like that's the only way this is gonna work. Because she knows like I would just be the wild little brother, just like messing around with everyone. But I just basically like became really close with her friends because she allowed me to be a part of that. And basically like I just kind of sat back and was like, just tried to learn how to be a functioning member of the society.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, when you're surrounded by older people, and I mean, for me, it was majority like older girls.
Yeah.
In a completely like like guy girl, like romantic way, you just get used to talking to people from like the opposite sex and 2 people who are older than you.
Right.
So like, it's just like, it becomes like kind of a natural thing.
Right.
And then you get into college and everything, and it's like these situations don't seem like foreign, too big,
they're not,
or like weird.
Yeah, right.
You know? Like I can talk to a girl completely normal, like I'm talking to a guy, and not think that it has to be like
a thing,
a guy girl.
Yeah,
thing, right?
like it's just like a normal
kind of tension.
That's actually I've literally never thought of it that way, but it's actually a really good point. Because like
a lot of guys suck at that. A lot of girls suck.
Yeah. That's actually nice.
They think there's some kind of implied relationship that has to take place between a guy and a girl, and it's
right.
Like, no,
it's like no,
I can
you
just
be
talk to you, like
be a friend to this person. Like my sister had so many friends here all the time, and like that's what's been so great about having this house is like we've always just had, like we always just have parties and like a bunch of people here all the time.
Yeah.
Which has also been great. But like she had a group of like 5 to 10 girls who were like hear all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like super close with them, and that's kind of like established my like guidelines of how I communicate with anyone, especially girls. Like it's like I can be friends with them. It's like, and just I know how to interact with people because I've always had people in here I had to interact with.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's so big.
It's crazy to think about.
I remember when I was preparing for this, I was thinking like, because we played against each other since we were 8 years old.
Yeah.
Always, and it was always Newbury Park Agora. Like that age group, we were the two best teams, you know. So even up into high school, we were always playing against each other. And I was like, God, I used to hate playing against Henry because he had this weird little motion, and he would stare out like the side of his eye, and he would come, and you were good, and I was like, God, dude, that was always brutal. But like I always remember, I was like, he was always like nice, like he was kind of like a gnarly competitor, like kind of like a bulldog.
Yeah, once the game started. Like,
you're like,
I was actually later thinking about this. It's like, I think it's really kind of unique, like, because we never really like hung out ever, like outside of literally the game, like games that we play against each other. But I remember like before games, we would like talk to each other.
Yeah, like we were acquainted just from playing.
Like we would literally like talk about and just like have a conversation, like we were like hanging out outside of the game. But like literally, that was the only conversations we'd have.
Yeah,
and I think that's so interesting that like. Literally just playing against each other for so long, like we're homies.
Yeah, and
you know, like
in high school, like we would before and after the games, like we'd dab each other
like,
up and we'd hang out.
Because like Newberry's far enough from Agora that it was like we're just separated by distance, and it was like, but just the game just brought us together just naturally without even like thinking about it.
Well, and the thing about like your team and just kind of like your high school in general, I don't know, and we kind of talked about this. Like last week when we were at Stonehouse.
Yeah.
Like you guys are so close. Like the fact that you're gonna have people over 200 people that are basically you all went to high school with, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. Like that's insane. We didn't have that at like Newbury Park. It was very like yours felt very much like a big family, and it was like the whole high school was in it, you know, not just baseball and other sports. It was like literally everyone at Agora knows everybody, and they all hang out together.
It's actually really, like, when I went to college, like, I would tell people, because I always have this party the day after Thanksgiving, and I would always tell people, like, in college, like, hey, like, I'll pretty much have this party, and it's, like, super fun, like, 200-something people from our high school comes. They're like, wait, what? Like, you're friends with people from your high school? I'm like, I'm like, wait, what? Is that weird? And I literally took me a while to, like, figure out, like, that's not normal, because it's just so normal to me, because that's like my reality. But like Agora is called the bubble, like it's literally known as the bubble. And I always thought it was strictly because like people who get caught in the bubble stay in the bubble, but I think it's more of like a metaphorical sense that like the people who went to Agora stay with the people who went to Agora, like they'll stay friends forever. I don't know what it is about that high school in this area, but like I mean, from like when we were at Stonehouse the other night, like I was talking to people like my sister's friends, like like literally a bunch of my sister's friends, and then like there's kids younger than us that like I knew,
and it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Like, if you were born here, like you know each other. Yeah,
it's super weird. I don't know what it is, but I think there's definitely that's kind of been this great stabilizing part of my life of just like having, you know, this place to fall back on, like in those friendships and those groups of people that I've like, you know, been around for my whole life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super interesting. I think it's super important, but at the same time, obviously there's a literal translation of the bubble. It's like, I don't want to get stuck here, and people do get stuck here, and
it's easy.
It's easy.
It's a pretty place to live.
For sure.
There's a lot of work opportunities around here, so you could easily get stuck. But I don't know what it was. There was just kind of like this aura about Agora where it just seemed like everyone was like good friends with each other. There never seemed like cliques or anything. And I'm sure there was.
There was
obviously
cliques,
it's high school.
But I think it was just kind of like this natural evolution of like these cliques all just like there were times in high school where it was like there was like the jock group, and then, you know, like the skaters and, you know, all this stuff. But I think all of us have just
It
And
just
especially after high school, for some reason,
Yeah.
it kind of like is the opposite of what you think would happen. It's like after high school, when we all separated,
People
we're
got
like,
closer.
yeah, we got closer in a way that we're like, okay, like we kind of miss each other.
Well,
like,
yeah.
we miss
I mean,
that.
you stopped acting in like what you thought you had to,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah,
Jocks
yeah.
stopped pretending like
Right.
they just had to be an athlete.
Right.
Like, you can be creative, you can be artistic. Like, you can just be a person. And when people are able to get that, they normally get there like in college.
Yeah.
Where
Right.
or just after high school when you can kind of just be who you want.
Right.
Right? You don't have to fit
You
a
don't have
mold
to-
anymore.
Yeah, and so many people have changed and stuff, but I think it's just so. I think a big thing too, which has been so great to have this house and stuff, is like having a party like this. Like people always say to me about this party, it's like, yeah, like we have moved to Santa Monica. Some people have moved to like Colorado or whatever.
Yeah.
Like people have moved, but they're like so appreciative of being able to come back to on one day and see everyone. You know, and it's like kind of this kind of like reunion that it's like literally we have a high school reunion every year.
Yeah. And
Which has been
for
amazing.
those of you listening, it's this event on the Friday after Thanksgiving that Henry calls Bakesgiving.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's just a
super
giant,
clever,
giant
corny
party.
name of
Yeah.
Baker and Thanksgiving.
Nice little play on words there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's super unique, and it just doesn't happen a lot nowadays.
Yeah. And now it's like this is our 7th year, and it's like it's kind of turned into this thing where we're a few years out of college now, and we're like becoming adults. And like we were talking about it a few years ago, one of our buddies' dads passed away, unfortunately, from cancer, and like he came up with the idea that like literally giving is in the name.
Yeah.
And like we should give back to the community. So like literally from that, like we donated to a cancer charity that first year we did it, and then the past couple years we've been donating to my buddy's Alzheimer's charity.
That's
so we want to
sweet.
so every year we're gonna do some sort of
So
charitable.
so every year you guys like just collect, like everyone brings
Yeah, I
money
do a GoFundMe on our Facebook page just as
Okay.
a simple way, like I mean last year like we the fires happened a couple weeks before the party,
Yeah.
so we did that, and Borderline happened.
Yeah, last year was a hell of a year.
It was like a crazy month. So we basically put all of our, Bakesgiving power of the Agora bubble into it and just raised a bunch of money. I mean, it was like a few hundred, like it was, I think we got close to like $1,000, I think in total, something like that, of just like strictly through, these people wanting to, give back.
But I mean, that's cool. Like it's cliche. It's the thought that matters, but it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gets you in that mode where 10 years from now, when all you guys have real jobs and it's still going on, whatever, that $1,000 turns into 10,000.
Right.
Turns into
That's
you
the
never
goal.
know,
I mean,
right?
like it's just basically
You do what you can when you're 24.
It's like having this place as like a stabilizing. All right, pause it.
You're good. No, go ahead. I just let it run.
Just having this place is like this stabilizing, base for everyone to come back to.
Good. How are you?
Hi, we're recording. It's cold and mom. But no, just having this place is like this stabilizing place to remind you of like where we came from and like what we kind of want to stand for, I guess, in a way, in the community, is like being able to give back and, kind of give back and get back to your roots.
Yeah, I love that. So let's jump to your college experience.
The fun part. Yeah.
The fun part.
Yeah.
That's the tester for
Yeah.
most people.
Yeah.
So college baseball, I mean, coming out of high school, you were in this area, you were the guy, one of the guys, right?
Yeah.
You go to UW and just talk about your experience, kind of.
So it was kind of tough to like, I mean, because out of high school, like I could have gotten drafted in, top 15 rounds and could have got a good amount of money. But I basically made the conscious decision that like I think I really need an education, and like have that backup plan. I thought, it was going to be 3 years in college, get drafted, make a lot of money in baseball.
What every guy thinks going in.
Right. So when I first got there, I I was kind of a guy our freshman year. I was supposed to be like our Sunday guy freshman year. And basically just like right when my first start, it was this big eye-opening moment of like, okay, this is different. You know, this is hard.
Yeah.
Because I've gone from, dominating in high school, pretty much,
Yeah, dominated, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
like,
okay.
People
Well,
like a 1
dominated-ish.
ERA, yeah. Like,
Yeah, okay.
People didn't get hits.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But basically it was this like big light bulb humbling moment of like, okay, this is tough. So, and obviously I'd prepared a lot and put a lot of work in, but I was like our Tuesday guy my freshman year. So it was midweek games and stuff, which is
still, it's still
good.
good.
But so then after my freshman year, I kind of was dealing with like a back injury, but pretty much the whole year. And in the fall of my sophomore year, that back injury just got to a point. It was like I was not able to function. I ended up having to get surgery on it.
Yeah.
I had like a bulging disc in my lower back.
Yeah, and anything with the back, like even if you're just a normal human being, getting out of bed in the morning is just
no, like I couldn't move.
It's not a thing.
But so basically, that was like really the first time that I was like seriously injured,
like hurt. Okay.
Yeah, and so that was fall, and then I was set to come back, like a month into the season, and it was really my fault of wanting to rush back to just.
Well, I mean, that environment kind of puts that on you. It's like, look, if you don't get back as soon as possible, you're gonna lose your spot.
Yeah, and like I was being told going in that year, like I was gonna be like a weekend starter, like Saturday guy potentially.
Like, I need to get back now.
So like if I don't get back at the beginning of the season, that's not gonna happen. So basically I rushed back, and my first start was at Pacific, and I was literally like, I think I threw one inter squad before that.
Damn.
I did.
So nothing.
So was not prepared.
No, not at all.
Like mentally, physically, or anything. And basically I felt super weird in warm-ups. Like I was just like sweating a lot, and I was like, this is not normal at all.
Yeah, this isn't good.
And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna I can't say I don't feel normal. What's gonna happen? And I literally went on the mound, and I don't really remember exactly.
Just blacked out.
I basically blacked out.
Yeah.
I think I hit the first guy on like the second pitch I threw, which I think the first pitch was like over his head or something. And literally I was like, I think 80% of the pitches I threw were to the backstop, and I couldn't feel my hand. And I was like, damn. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, I had no clue what this was.
Yeah.
And like my coach came out, and he's like, I think like looking back on it, he knew what that was. But I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, yeah, I'm totally cool, man. Like,
was it like any pain, like your back hurt or anything?
No.
Or it was just, like,
well, I mean, I think it was just
weird.
so much adrenaline that like I couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Like I think it was adrenaline
just
and like
numb.
Yeah, and like I just had not. I don't think I like really fully healed right, and it was like I wasn't feeling great with my back. Like it still wasn't 100%, but it was just like surgically repaired.
Yeah.
So like, but I think I faced 3 batters, got pulled. I didn't get an out, and like I got in the dugout and I was like in shock.
I think what just happened.
I was literally in shock, and like someone, like one of my buddies, came up to me. He's like, do you think that was like the yips? And I was like, the what? It's like, oh shit.
Just put it in your head.
I forgot like that existed because you kind of have to block that out
because it's not a thing until
you can't think about it.
Yeah.
Until it happened. Until after.
Well, yeah, and like you hear about it, and you're like, well, it's not like.
It's like the voodoo.
It's not for me.
You can't like.
Yeah, like it's not gonna happen to me.
The thing that should not be named. Type thing. Like
you shall not be named.
Like no one talks about it, but like I was like, oh my god, like I think it might be the yips, I guess.
Yeah.
So basically tried to come back from that, and that was like that experience was like I mean, obviously, I think it was one of the worst experiences of my life. Like, because
To
I had the yips, and like I had, I think, 2 more starts, which was pretty much the same result.
Yeah.
The ball was literally going everywhere. I could not feel my hand. And that's like
So
the most
weird.
important thing.
Well, yeah, if you can't feel the ball, you have no idea where it's going.
Right, exactly. Like it was literally just like throwing like without being able to bend your fingers. You're just like throwing flat handing a ball. Like that's like the only way I can explain it. It's hard to explain. Like,
yeah.
And that's the thing that's so crazy about the yips. It's like people don't understand. Like, why can't you throw the ball?
Well,
You've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to touch on is when you have like an ailment, whether it's mental or physical, that people can't see.
Right.
Like how frustrating is that? Because you're like you don't get it.
Yeah, no, and that was a big hurdle of it too, and I think that's kind of translated really well to my real life. Of my, like, actually, my day to day is, like, I felt super. This thing is off.
The guy, it has like a mind of its own sometimes.
Is it lock?
That part doesn't. This part's locked.
This arm?
No, it just kind of just chills. It's just because it's not locked in all the way. It'll swing and stuff like that.
Crazy. Let's see right there. I'll just move to it. Here, no, this is fine. There we go. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. We did it everywhere. Okay. All right, Mike. But no, so that was definitely a crazy thing because it's like you're adamantly complaining about something that no one can see.
Yeah.
And like I had to overcome the hurdle of like people are severely judging me off of like what the hell is this? Why isn't he pitching?
You came in as like the guy, right?
Yeah,
like
it was
supposed to be the
it
guy
was, like,
that
expectations,
year.
And I feel like I really let everyone down. That was a big part of it, but I would kind of really put my head down trying to figure out like what is wrong with me, and that kind of made me give me this perspective that if I was going to achieve anything, I had to like block out the negative people who didn't believe in it, who didn't like understand, who were just coming from like a judgmental standpoint on it.
Yeah.
In order to like achieve my goal, I had to like block those thoughts out of my head. Like people, are judging me and are frustrated with everything I did and whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just it took me, was that my sophomore year? I didn't really overcome it until like my senior year. But at that point it was like, it's kind of a little too late, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, the yips are, it's just this thing that no one gets yet.
No, people don't understand what it is, how to fix it, how to get over it. I mean, for most people, I'd say 90% of the people that get it, that's it.
Yeah.
But not only that, for a lot of those people, it like leaks into the rest of their life. It's like now their confidence is just shot.
Right.
Life.
For sure.
For sure. Like, oh man, like I can't even imagine what that was like. So like for you, you made a conscious decision though to be like, no. Like I'm either gonna get through this and it's gonna work for baseball, but it's sure as hell not gonna affect my real life.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like when that happened, and I like, I'd gone from this guy who was like, I'd done really well and like was the dude, and then go from that to literally non-existent in the baseball world. I basically had to completely shift my perspective on everything. That I think I had to basically sacrifice the image of what I think I was going for in terms of like wanting to be this professional baseball player.
Yeah.
And replace that with the goal of like wanting to help others achieve their goals and, show people how to do it. Or help guide people and like lead, I guess.
So tell me a little bit like what your role was, because as you were struggling through that for your junior year and a little bit of your senior year, it's like, well, you're still on the team,
right?
So like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I mean, it was I mean, it took me a few months of like literally being like in shock, when it first initially happened. But basically kind of hit this fork in the road of like, okay, I can either be like just an asshole about it and just kind of go into hiding essentially and just be like in a bad mood all the time.
Woe is me. Yeah.
Right. Or I can just like try to be like a leader in the clubhouse and try to, be kind of set an example of work ethic and, passion for something to all the younger guys and everyone else on the team. So basically I completely was fine with not playing because I wanted to, take a different role on the team. Yeah. So after, like it took a while, but I basically was put into this role that I can be teaching or I can be leading by example. And basically got to a point going into my senior year, I thought I was going to get cut.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, like what am I going to do? And I knew baseball was kind of like realistically, because like once you get the yips, it's like you have that like stamped on you.
Well, yeah, like people kind of lose.
Yeah, because I mean, any scout would be like, okay, like that's
like, okay, this could happen again. Like, am I gonna risk it, right?
Yeah, which we just still don't even know what caused it and anything or whatever. But basically, I was like, I thought I was gonna get cut, and my coach was like, we want to keep you on the team. I was like, what? Like, what? Like, why? Like, really? And he was like, yeah, like, we want you because you've been such a good leader and you have that, like, natural, like, leadership ability to bring people together.
Hell yeah.
And that conversation was kind of like this whole turning point in my life. It was like, you could bring a team together for a greater good, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Like I want to do something
that's a huge compliment coming from.
Yeah, coming from him. And like out of all people, he really believed in me. And like, I felt like I'd let him down, but he actually saw something completely different that I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And like, once he said that, I was like, oh, like, that's what I want to do, is be doing something that could bring people together and, do something great.
So was that kind of the moment that, I mean, I doubt it, but was that kind of the moment that you realized, hey, I want to do film, or did film kind of
So that's what's crazy about the story. So that story happened, I think, it was the end of my junior year. Okay. That conversation happened. And pretty much, like, at the end of my junior year, I had taken a, like, cinema studies class. It was like a film 101 class. And I'd always loved movies. Like, I love, TV shows and all that stuff. Like, loved it. But I took this film 101 class. And one of the first things we watched was Citizen Kane. I don't know if you've seen Citizen Kane. Yeah. And, like, we're in the class, and I thought it was going to be like, oh, like, like, Citizen Kane lives on this, like, I thought it was just going to be, like, plot. Like, what happens like, in this story. Like, he runs for...
General, like, watch a movie and tell me what happens. Yeah,
like, he runs to be a senator or, like, whatever. But they started talking about, like, the thematic aspects of it and how that movie was the first time where, like, the shot composition actually told the story. The distance between people was a translation of the distance between him and his wife. The distance in the shot. Yeah. Like on a long table or whatever, and they're in the huge...
And how you can portray that, and people don't even know that you're doing it, but they feel it.
Yeah, and I was like, for some reason, it took my junior year of college where I was like, oh my God, I totally felt that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that they were literally trying to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, oh my God. So like, I just went nuts. Like, so I was like a film 101 class. It was just like the Casablanca, like, your classics, like
classic
Godfather, or like, like the really classic ones.
Yeah.
And I I actually remember after watching Citizen Kane and like they had the lecture on it, I literally went to my advisor because I was like a communications major, just because I didn't know what else.
Yeah, it's
It
a
seemed
good
vague enough.
placeholder. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good placeholder.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm switching to cinema and media studies. She's like, what? Like no one's ever done that. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. This is what I need to do.
But you
like,
play baseball.
yeah, like it's because it's not like no athlete. It was in
Oh
that
yeah,
major.
no way.
And
it's all business comm and that's
business.
about it.
Yeah, it's
Pretty much it.
Soch.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
But I literally was like, I need to tell stories. Like I need, because that's what I've always thought as a baseball player is like our best value is like being able to, you know, put up a mirror and set an example to younger kids or anyone that like, you know, things are possible and also like baseball is, you know, the whole thing with, you know, movies and shows, it's either, you know, you're putting up a mirror to someone to show them how to act.
Yeah.
Or it's a sense of escapism.
Sure.
Right? It's taking people out of their reality. And that's literally what baseball is, and that's what also movies are.
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. I would have never like seen that correlation.
Yeah.
Literally
yeah, it was
until right now. That's
that all happened for me.
That's cool, yeah.
That all happened for me in a span of like a week. I figured all this out. So like I was like still so I realized that, and then, you know, my coach told me like, you're staying on our team. Like we really need you.
Yeah.
As a person who can like gel the team together. I guess, you know, like
be that leading force,
like the conduit that like keeps it light and keeps everyone like focused towards something together. Right.
Yeah.
And I realized with those combinations of things, of storytelling and, you know, leadership and, you know, putting or bringing a team together for a goal.
Yeah.
That's like what a producer is.
Making movies and shows.
That's what a producer is.
It's exactly
like, so
what
I was like, oh my God, like that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
And so I literally I changed my major, and I actually had that fall off from baseball. Like my coach let me have that off. Cause I think when I realized I wanted to do like entertainment, I like literally read, it was like 20 to 30 books in like 2 months or something.
You
like,
started ripping through it.
It was like insane. I just because I loved it so much. I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I love this. And I think you saw that and gave me that fall off. So I just literally went to film school while in school, also as a cinema studies major. So I literally was in school, took screenwriting classes, took like, you know, crazy avant-garde film classes called
the requirement
cinema
stuff,
but also like just read up a bunch, watched, you know, every master class I could,
just absorbing all.
I was like a hermit. Like I literally never left my room, pretty much. And that few months of like having that entire fall without baseball was like the greatest few months of my life.
Well, that's probably the first time in your life you're able to commit to something other than baseball, like you had committed to baseball.
It was like that's
what happens when I devote all my energy to something else. Like, and you're like, oh my God, this is sick.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of why that ultimately happened. And I think that's kind of translated into how I approach entertainment. It's like my favorite part about being a baseball player was like the grind of it. It's learning everything I can, all the different, all the different pitches, how to, mechanics. I was like a crazy,
technician,
crazy student of mechanics. Yeah. And just like trying to learn as much as possible. And I think when that transition happened for me, it was like, this is my like replacement for baseball. It's like I want to learn and translate that work ethic into entertainment.
Yeah. So your transition from after you graduated, baseball was over, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Your transition to quote unquote real life.
Yeah.
Seems like it was fairly easy because your transition like away from baseball kind of happened earlier.
Yeah.
Like your junior year,
Yeah,
you kind of had already shifted. Because I know for a lot of people, when you like leave college, it's like a, oh God, what do I do now? Kind of thing. Did you have that, or were you kind of like, I know what I want to do? I'm ready to get home.
That's why I'm just so appreciative all that stuff happened, because I literally I graduated college and I was like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and I needed to basically either be an assistant at an agency, or be like a production assistant or executive assistant for a producer or something, or on a show. So basically right when I graduated, I started interviewing. I interviewed at some agencies. I got one offer at an agency and an offer to be a production assistant on the show that they were developing at Fox, in the same day. Same day. So basically it was like,
all right, pick
this life decision coin flip.
That's big, yeah.
Like,
and did they want to know right away?
Yeah. I had like,
of course,
20 minutes to decide, because like I got the offer from the show on Fox, and then for some reason was like, okay, can I think about it? And then got the offer. I said, can I think about it? And then like 15 minutes went by. Like I had called a few of like friends, parents who were like kind of my mentors and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, you need to call them back right now and like say yes to that. But then literally before I can call the Fox people back, I got an offer from Gersh, which is the talent agency, for an assistant job there.
Okay.
And I was like, like shit. Oh my god. I mean, it was a great problem to have, but it was like,
yeah. Do you remember where you were when you got those calls?
I was in the car. I literally was in the car.
In the car by yourself?
Yeah, like I was on Bluetooth, just like trying to figure out.
Not where you
like,
want to be.
I was like, oh my god, like I should have. I needed to pull over. I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
Like just calling a bunch of people, and I told the people at Gersh, like, hey, can I think about it? Again, I literally said that twice to people, like within 30 minutes, and
great.
I called my parents. I called I called back again. I did the whole cycle of phone calls again. And then I don't know what it was. I was like, I'm just taking the job at Fox.
Just felt right.
I don't know. Thing, yeah. It just kind of was just like this coin flip, gut thing that I just went with. So I took this job at Fox. I was a production assistant on a show called Top 30, which they were developing.
Yeah.
And I basically started like 3 days later. And it wasn't, I mean, so Top 30, for anyone who doesn't know, which it wasn't huge, but it was a good show. But it was a news magazine show. It was 30 stories in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely different than what I saw myself wanting to do, but it was just something to start.
Yeah, I mean,
it was just like because
just like your baseball journey, you have the idea of what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Because we have this perfect
right.
path, and then like something presents it, and you're like, "Yep, all right, we'll start there."
Right.
Like I don't care.
Yeah, I literally was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So basically, and I knew nothing about news or news production going into it too, which was
perfect.
Which is great. Which is totally ideal, because I literally spent all this time, like the year and a half prior to that. Year prior to that, like learning screenwriting. I wrote a bunch of scripts and all this stuff. And then first job is literally news, which is like the complete antithesis of that entire.
Yeah, it's completely
opposite.
Very strict.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically I was like, okay, I'm going to just like learn as much as I can. Right. So I'm a production assistant by definition. It's just helping out on set, like doing random, like getting coffee stuff or whatever. And basically I went into it with the mindset like I did with baseball, is I want to learn as much as possible.
Yeah, just observe and absorb everything around you.
Right. And in terms of like literally practical skills, like just learn as much as possible and just offer, as much help as I can, just as a way of like, one, building trust with everyone, and two is just like learning from those people who had been all these producers and stuff who had been in the industry for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So and it's so funny looking back on that, because like that's what my mindset was going into college. And like in baseball, it was like, I just want to learn, and that was my same mindset with my sister and her friends when I was like 12.
Yeah.
Like
it's like I just want to absorb.
Just absorb stuff.
I mean, you could read a million books. You could watch a million how-tos.
Exactly.
When I was starting this podcast, I could watch a million YouTube videos on how to do a podcast.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you just got to do it.
Right.
Like this conversation we're having now probably wouldn't be the same if you were the first person I interviewed. Because like when I first started, it was just different. Like I was a little nervous, and like I'd never done it before, and I didn't know what the flow was like. And I was like, do I go by these questions that I've laid out, or do I just talk?
Right.
And it's just like you just jump in and you just do it, and you find 100%. Your way. And
so basically, like taking these kind of values that I've had from all these different, mentors or experiences in my life.
Yeah.
I basically started at Fox just wanting to learn, and they just kept giving me responsibilities. Like I would have to go get laundry, and then schedule a phone call while at the laundromat for my boss, and just be doing like all this stuff. So I was like his like executive assistant and the production assistant, and I was just basically able to handle all these things. And like and then a few weeks into it, basically he was like, do you want to like run the production? And I was like, what? It's like, I'm sorry, wait. I literally just got back from getting a suit pressed at a laundry mat, and you just asked me if I want to run the production of this nationally syndicated show.
Yeah.
And then of course I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I know anything about that? No. I literally I didn't know like how like slating worked, or like how I obviously had seen news shows before, but I had no clue how it was done. So basically I had to learn it in a day.
Again, yeah.
I learned it. I literally learned it in a day, like by watching it and being like, okay, like we pre-taped everything, so we would shoot half in this show starting at 10, ended at noon, and then in the mornings we do like all the breaking news stuff.
Okay.
And then deliver the show at like 10.
Yeah.
So basically I had to learn all that, but for about a year I was in charge of like the production schedule and the production itself. So I was like directing in a sense, like, but also still a production assistant.
Still his assistant.
I was still a production assistant, still doing all of like that stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
So I was, for a solid year, it was like we'd have to be there. I would have to get up at 4 a.m.
every day
to be in Hollywood at 5:30.
Yeah. But again, that's like it's a big testament. It really doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're getting the coffee or getting suit press or whatever. It's how you do it, and that's probably what they care about. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah,
right?
And like
can this guy do 4 different things at once, and can he start doing stuff without me asking for it, and can he manage this? And it's like, wow,
100%.
This guy can do all these things, and those are highly transferable skills.
Right. Yeah, and I wasn't consciously doing it. I was just like, that's just what I was used to.
Defaulted because
it's just what I was used to doing. So for literally a year was doing all of those things from, be there at 5:30 in the morning, and then wouldn't leave. I was always the last one there, like leaving at like 9 or 10 o'clock. And people are like, dude, like you're crazy. I'm like, no, like this is kind of normal.
Yeah, how old are you? 21, 22?
I was 22 at the time.
Yeah, what else are you supposed to be doing?
Yeah, what else am I supposed to be doing? But like also, like in college, like like it was weights at
Weights at 6.
6.
You're not getting home till 10.
Yeah.
And mix in 3 or 4 classes throughout the day and a practice.
So it like worked out well. That was just like
I've been on the
skip a
schedule
beat
for a while.
Yeah, right. Like it just went straight into it. But
yeah.
so basically, it was like 9 months of doing. It was 9 months of doing that. With the title of production assistant, and then I got promoted to associate producer.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, okay, I'm going to stop running the production and be an associate producer, which is basically like I would have to reach out to like National Geographic, Wall Street Journal, Fox Business, all these other, outlets.
Sure.
And do partnerships with them for segments that we did on our show. And that's like a full-time job in and of itself. So I was doing that. So I thought
they were separate.
It was separate.
Yeah.
But no.
No, it's just involved.
It was just another thing
added on. Okay, cool.
And then it was like, okay, fine, I'll learn that too.
Yeah.
But so that was 9 months, and then did all of those things at the same time. 3 months after that, one of the producers quit, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to have to help hire another producer.
Yeah.
And then my boss pulled me aside one day. He's like, do you want to be a producer? I was like, yeah.
Yep.
Which was like this crazy moment of like, because I had set a goal in college, like I want to be a producer, and it just seemed like kind of surreal, like
and literally less than 2 years out of it.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen, right?
No,
like I'm kind of unaware of how that world works.
No, I think a lot of that, it was just kind of luck, and it was kind of born out of chaos. So that was like, there weren't, like, we had, I think 25 to 30 people on our show.
Okay.
So relatively small-ish. Like I think we had like 10 editors, some graphic people, I think it was 7 producers, an executive producer, stage people, audio people, all that stuff. But it was like a relatively small production. So I think it was lucky that it was like that, because I was able to kind of
stand
do
out
well in the chaos.
Sure.
Because like people would kind of complain sometimes because it was so chaotic, the people who had been in it for a long time. And I was just so naive. Like, I thought this was fine. Like, I don't know. But yeah, no, it was super, like, when I got promoted, everyone's like, they've never seen never seen a 23-year-old be a producer. Like, it just turned 23, as a producer. And like, they're like, this is not normal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, I think pretty much, like, it was just chaos, and it was just super lucky. And like, I don't know, I just basically see it as like, I don't know, I just worked.
There's like the common like adage is luck is when preparation meets opportunity,
mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And I think, as traumatic and tough and brutal like the Yips was in
mm-hmm.
college, that whole experience, if you don't go through that, you're probably not a producer.
Yeah.
Less than 2 years into that world. Right. Like that's something that's so insane that like only someone that's gone through some sort of experience and been able to like push through to the other side is able to do that. Because someone else in your position, maybe they can't manage 4 different things at the same time. Maybe they can't go to the cleaners and make scheduling calls, or they wouldn't say yes and be willing to just stay up and not sleep and learn how to do something, right?
Yeah.
But like that's something that just seemed very like natural. Yeah. Is what it sounds like.
For sure. And I think like really looking back on like all of that, I think the thing I'm most grateful for about the Yips was like completely stripping away my confidence and basically putting me back at square one.
Yeah.
And being like, okay, what are you going to do? Literally I basically was like, it's like, sounds kind of corny, but it was like I was like reborn, like,
no, absolutely,
because my whole life I was a baseball player. That's who I was.
Yeah.
I had nothing else. And then basically that happened. It was like, okay, that's your like baseball death.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's a death of identity, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I went through mine
Mm-hmm.
when I retired, and I know, I mean, you know too, a bunch of buddies that do it, and it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's something you've dedicated your life to for so long,
Right.
and it's over.
It's over.
And I didn't get mine till I was 24, and injuries were like, hey buddy, you can't play no more.
Yeah.
You got yours a little sooner.
Right.
But that's also like a big reason for why I want to make these and everything, is to show like, hey, someone can go through what you went through, and be killing it and doing the coolest things outside of their sport.
Right.
And like it's a transition that can be made.
Right.
It doesn't have to crush you or mean that like, oh, all I can do is coach this sport, you know?
Like you only can do baseball.
Yeah, like no way.
But I love that you're doing this, and like it's actually crazy because like so I was a producer for like a total of 2 years on that show, and then got kept on, was doing documentaries as a producer at Fox. And then we finished up a few months ago, and then I kind of was put back at square one of like, what stories do I want to do, like, and tell?
Yeah, because you're still passionate about telling the story.
And
you know,
it's like
not so much the
getting back into working. It's like you have to have your own, you know, drive in it. Like you're your own boss.
Yeah.
You know, and basically the big thing has been pushing me to tell my own stories is like the stories of athletes and, you know, the characteristics of athletes and the journeys that they have all gone on, the unique journeys of each one. And that's a lot of the stuff I'm working on right now is like, you know, using, you know, baseball, especially for the stuff we're working on currently, but like using that as an expression of like human perseverance and, you know, work ethic and, you know, what does success mean?
Yeah.
You know,
what does it actually
actually?
Well,
know?
And that's
everyone's
the biggest question.
You know, everyone's seen, you know, like Major League, you know, it's like, oh my God, we won, you won going to the World Series. You know, that's success. But like, you know, what does, you know, like a wholesome, well, like, you know, completely well-rounded success look like to an individual, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what is your version of success? Is it, you know, providing for a family? Is it, you know, like overcoming all these hardships and, you know, actually reaching a attainable goal?
Well, and that's the thing is it's not like this one standard thing that's up here that everyone's climbing towards the same thing. That's what we think it is.
Yeah,
that's what I thought it was for the longest time, right?
Exactly.
It's like once I get there, I'll be good.
Yeah.
And it's like you have these little like mini benchmarks to meet along the way, and you get there and you're like, well, it doesn't feel like it, right? But it's then like
the top of a mountain's a lot, you know, like some people like the cliche is like, you know, success, you know, like money and success isn't everything is made out to be. That's like, once you get there, it's like, okay, now what? Yeah.
And like, you know, I would argue to say one of the most successful things in your life is having Thanksgiving every year. Yeah. Like how, like imagine how impactful that is for 200 people, and now the charity aspect of it, and getting people like to be like that connected still to each other and have that sort of community. Like that's a huge success. That's incredible. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, wow, that's actually, I never really thought of that like
that. But like that's a big version of it.
For
like,
sure.
Who cares what money's in the bank or whatever? Like,
if
you can have an impact on people like that and create a space for that, like, sort of like community and everything, I think that's a huge success.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of, you know, variety in what people see as like, you know, the dream Major League Baseball story. It's like, that's what we're trying to convey is like, everyone's different. There's not like the, you know, you're on the Major League mound, like, oh, you finally did it, you know, like
now you'll be happy.
Yeah, right. Like everyone has, I mean, and a lot of it too is like a big thing that has kind of changed my perspective on things is like passion, you know, because like the yips obviously like kind of made me think about what my passion is, because I was so passionate about baseball, but then you know, the injury happened, then like this whole, you know, sequence of events went down that was like, okay, like, do I love this anymore? Do I love to do this?
Yeah.
And basically made me realize that you have to follow your passion.
Yeah. And you were like, well, I think the biggest thing about baseball I do love is telling the stories, right?
Yeah, it's the stories.
That's how you found it.
Yeah, and it's I think, and it's so funny to look back on because I didn't really realize it until my coach told me that my greatest passion and I guess ability was, like
bringing people
together and leading in my own unique way.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not like a vocal leader. I'm not the guy in the middle of like the huddle, giving a speech, but like it's more of just.
But you're like the guy that people like come up
like
to talk to one-on-one.
Yeah, like I have like deeper talks with people about like what do they want to be doing, like and like when I was a senior, like my coach was right that it was like I would talk because there were guys who had yips, who got the yips
really
after I got it.
Yeah,
and I was like the savvy vet who had gone through it.
Yeah,
and is still going through it. So like it was great to like be that person for those guys who like weren't ready to give it up.
Yeah.
Because I was ready to give up, becoming a pro baseball player, but they weren't. So I was like, okay, well, like,
let me help you.
You can't, yeah, right. So, but that's what I was super passionate about. So it was just super lucky and just thankful that all like kind of fell in line that like this, job as a producer.
Yeah.
Of like this goal of becoming a producer kind of just happened out of, luck and timing.
Sure.
And then I was able to like redirect it. But I mean, it's kind of rough for people sometimes who don't have the passion behind what they're doing, and they lose the passion but keep their direction towards like the money.
Yeah.
And
or just for sake's sake,
Yeah,
like just
right.
because I've been doing this so long, I got it.
Yeah, that's a big hurdle too.
Accomplish this goal because I set the goal. And
Sure.
It's like, you can abandon that goal.
It's like you've been doing it, put so many years into it, but what's your likelihood of success if you're just doing it just because?
Yeah.
Like that's where I realized like that was my real baseball death when I was trying to come back from the yips and it was like impossible because I didn't even know what it was, like. And that's where I was like, okay, I don't know how much I love it really anymore for the game itself.
Yeah.
But I love what the game provided.
Sure. Which is
the people, like we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah,
Whether
exactly.
for baseball. Like all my best friends are former teammates.
Yeah.
And my greatest relationships are through baseball. And I think my greatest traits, I guess, have just been because I was a baseball player.
Yeah.
Like nothing else.
It's a perfect conduit to just prepare you for life and challenges and failures and all that stuff.
Right. For sure.
Well, dude, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sitting down.
Thanks, man.
And chalking it
was
up.
great.
Social media, I know you don't use it a lot.
Well,
but,
I'm thinking about getting back on. I don't know.
where can people find you?
Where can they find me? Just follow me on Instagram, and then
What is it?
It's Henry Baker. I'm like an OG.
Oh,
I'm like at Henry Baker. Isn't that crazy?
That's really good. That's hard.
I think I got on early.
Yeah.
And then it was just like.
Well, I mean, we kind of were at that prime age. Like when Instagram took off, we were like juniors in high school, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that perfect time.
Right. Yeah, Instagram's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hope next time we do this, the intro's we can get a little bit more intro.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
In progress.
Follow Henry on social media or just follow him in general. He's working on some really cool stuff that I will not spoil. But I think you can tell from our talk how passionate, hardworking, and creative this guy is, and there's no way that you don't make something that's in movie theaters someday. So
hopefully, knock on wood.
I look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
If you guys made it this far, go ahead and subscribe if you are not subscribed, and leave a review. Helps me out, helps the podcast out. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, peace out. We're good, man.
Boom. Dude.
Dang, that easy, man.
That was fucking
hell yeah.
dope.